Good morning. I think it's still morning. It is, unless you're from East Tennessee, and then you're like, it is not 11 o'clock. But it is 11 o'clock to a Central Time, people. Good morning. I am Monterey Moore. I serve on the TASBO board, along with, there's several other board members. I see Scott Ray is in here. If you're a board member, raise your hand. I think that's it, just the two of us. We welcome you to TASBO. We're so glad you're here with us, and we hope you have a great, great conference. As you can tell, there is a lot of festive things going on, and we hope you truly enjoy the joy of school business. So I'm going to introduce our speaker today for this session, if my phone will agree with me. Okay. Garrett has a background in audit and compliance. His career expands over 15 years from working from the comptroller of the Treasury to public accounting. Garrett has worked his way up from a legislative auditor 1 to senior staff auditor at Pew CPAs to present-day director of internal school funds for Knox County Board of Education. Wow, Garrett, that's pretty impressive right there. Garrett and his wife, Brooke, have 3 children, Blake, Brinley, and Heath. If you would, please welcome Garrett.
All right, thank you guys for allowing me to speak, TASBO and Scott and all the other board members. Get this mic set. So like the comptroller's office earlier today, I use my hands a lot and like to move, so I'm going to give Justin back there a run for his money. So I'll try to stay still. But all right, so real quickly, the self-funding, the internal school funds, that's what we're going to speak about today. Let me get is it still F5? All right, so those Tennessee fans, you'll like my play on images here. All right, so self-funding the internal school funds, what does that mean? Like, what are we trying to accomplish? What is the role? What is the goal, Garrett? Like, what are you trying to get to, okay? So it's kind of a long story, but at the same time a fun one, and it transitions really well from what we just heard the comptroller's office talk about. I actually used to work for them for 3 years, as they just mentioned, and then I worked at Pew CPA firm for about 3 years, a little over that, and then I've been here in my current role as a director of internal school funds for about 9 years, so that'll be February, it'll be 9 years already, and a lot of that was with kids, so it tells you I kind of wanted a little bit out of the public accounting realm. And the little words to the wise there for those of you that have been in that field, I always was told that if you are in public accounting for more than 10 years, you're going to stay. And I made it 9. So, hoorah. So a lot of what I'm talking about comes from an auditor's perspective, but I want to just know that make you all aware as bookkeepers, as CFOs, as directors, supervisors, whatever your title is or isn't, it doesn't matter. I can speak to you what you do on a daily basis because I've been doing it for 8 years, going on 9. Okay, I know how in the weeds it feels to be a secretary or a bookkeeper that's answering the phone, cleaning up whatever on aisle 2, answering a disgruntled parent, refunding a cash transaction when we should have done a check, making mistakes, all of these things, okay? I've been there, done that. All of my staff is here with me to kind of, just back that, support that, just so just know that I've been there. And a lot of what this self-funding, the internal school funds presentation comes from is from just that, okay? To learn how to take a $0 budget and make more of it without affecting the budget, okay? So without further ado, we're going to get into it. Notice the Tennessee schedule down there. I don't know if anybody watches football. So as the comptroller's office said, the whole point of the internal school fund manual, which, by the way, I called it the TSOPM, not the Tennessee Internal School Uniform Accounting Policy Manual. TSOPM just sounded better. It was just a whole lot cooler. Now I have no clue what I'll call it. I guess the TSIFA. I don't know. I'll think of a cool name. We'll go with it from mnemonics or something. But remember that the books that you're over are not meant to supplant. They are meant to add to, not to replace, right? So to kind of piggyback and transition into this conversation, if you understand that in your role that you play, you will be miles ahead as an auditor. I mean, I would walk into a building and bookkeepers would ask me that question. Hey, you just wrote me up for this finding. Why? Isn't that the board's job to do it? And why am I getting written up for it? Exactly. Right? Like we have to understand. I mean, and remember too that this is just Garrett's opinion. Being in that situation is not a reflection of obviously Knox County Board of Education or Knox County Schools. It's just what we've learned as a school system and what we're putting forth now. Okay? So kind of take this as like your thesis statement, if you will, and run with it. Okay? So this just kind of, again, oddly enough, this just transferred really smoothly from what the comptroller's office was talking about today. The gate workers, the instructional workers, security, instructional software, that's a big one for me, right? iReady, iExcel, all of your principals are peppering you with questions. Why did the board not buy this software? PTAs are buying it for you. Then you're having to figure out why did they buy it? The parents complain to you, why did they buy it? All of these things happen. Can I get an amen? Okay. Okay. So with all this happening, right, the thing to stand by is what is being done, right? Like where we're at today is what actually is happening. I've been here 8 years and nothing has happened. With all due respect to anyone above me, nothing has happened, okay? That's not a negative, but it is at the same time, right? Like it just means that, and you'll see a lot of quotes from me and movie quotes, and remember that I have 3 kids. I'll show you a little picture, side note. I love side notes. So there's me, my wife. There's Blake. She's my, oh, she can't see it? You can't see it? There you go. All right, so, all right, there you go. So Blake, Brinley, and Heath, that's in order by how tall they are. So Blake is an 8-year-old, and then Brinley is my 6-year-old, and then Heath is also a 6-year-old. I had twins, and I'm married to a twin, so I should have known what I was getting myself into. And then we have no more kids. Buy one, get one specials, that's when you know to stop. So with that said, though, going back into this, that's where we're at. What is being done, okay? All right, and that's also a really good movie if you haven't seen it. All right, so the concept is just this. What internal control process do you have? What does it take to do them, like from a cost standpoint, and is it working? Okay, so ask those 3 questions. That's what I did when I took this job. When I took this job for Knox County Schools, I was told, Garrett, get rid of audit findings. That's what everyone said above me. Get rid of audit findings. Get rid of audit findings. That's what every one of you are trying to do as well. Just may or may not have been told that's part of your job. It's down there at the bottom. It's really fine print. It says other duties as assigned. So, yeah, good luck. So with that said, though, those 3 things, those are your priorities. So what are we controlling? What is the cost to control it? And is it actually working? Okay? So from here, I'm going to literally not follow my presentation because how you act and interact with this conversation is what's going to help me talk about it with you, okay? Rather than me just standing here talking, that's not what helped me when I took this job 8 years ago. What helped me was getting in the trenches and being a bookkeeper for 7 months at a school that had fraud, right? Being that bookkeeper and seeing how many times you're asked the same question in 15 minutes, much less a day, right? And then going to Subway across the street because that is literally the only place I could find to eat and not talk about work, okay? And I still didn't do that well because they had Wi-Fi. All right, so with that said, though, ask yourself those 3 questions, okay? So here's just a snapshot while you're talking about this amongst yourselves or thinking about it. Here's a snapshot of our problems. And again, this is self-reflection, not me throwing us under the bus. So it's kind of like Vegas. Let's treat it like that for a little bit. All right, so we have a budget for my department and the school bookkeepers. So I'm going to kind of change the way the budgets are ran inside your own districts just for a few seconds. We all know that there's a big budget. So that would be like the $600 million budget for Knox County government, or Knox County schools, rather. Okay? So $600 million is what we as a school system budget every year to run Knox County school system, Knox County Board of Education, okay? Of that budget, $4 million runs the internal school funds accounts. That's from my salary, my 4 coworkers, and yeah, you heard it, just 4. And then down to the 93 bookkeepers that we have that are paid approximately $19,000 a year. Okay, 24 I guess is the best case scenario average, but retention has a lot to do with that, so we'll talk about that today too, okay? And all of your schools are the same. I've looked them all up because it's all public record. Just about all of them. Some of them I did your audit back in the day, so I already remembered that. So with that said, Garrett, why are you making a big deal about this when it's 0.06% of the budget? Definitely not a valid point. It's not a lot of money. It's $4 million out of $600 million, right? So back to what the comptroller's office, Sarah, Jean, and Bethany were talking about. It's not material, but it is, and that's what I want to show you, okay? So that includes bookkeeper salaries, finance department, all the stuff that you see in front of you, okay? There's disparities, there's inequities, there's a bookkeeper turnover. This year, I think we're at 15, give or take maybe 2 or 3 deviations of bookkeepers, because I'm not sure exactly who's going to leave tomorrow, because they will. It's inevitable. But it's about 60 to 80%. Last year was our highest. Post-COVID, I guess you kind of expect that nowadays. Insert any other key comments that are negative right there. I'll hold my tongue. So 60 to 80%, that's really, really high and very bad, right? Okay, but why? Why? Why is it so high, Garrett? Where you're taking a job and telling somebody to focus on finance when they're focused on kids. That's why. Okay? Another amen there. Okay? Also, don't fall asleep. This is a big slide, especially in the bottom right-hand corner. So these are the things that get me hyped up, like the ladies from the comptroller's office were talking about. This is where I'm passionate about. So if I elevate my voice and you start hearing me start yelling and screaming, Scott, just, say this or something. This is what it's all about, okay? So online receipting, it doesn't matter the company, okay? We'll talk about companies and all that. You can side note me. I'm not trying to advertise on their behalf, okay? I'm not doing that, okay? But I'll tell you, online receipting, if you're not doing it, wow. All you're doing is you're missing out on a key piece of technology that will save light years of work. Like the refunds conversation, with all due respect, that you're not going to have to do anything with refunds. You just click and it's done. There's documentation there. You've proven why you're doing it. If you're doing it wrong, then somebody's going to catch you. It's all there, documented. Currently, Knox County Schools does not have an incentive built into that contract for online receipting. I will next time. And next time we go out for bid for a service, we will have that, or we will negotiate that soon. Because we are at 70% adoption. 72, actually. I checked it last night, so it probably changed because kids leave, come back, that kind of thing. So 72%. Where were we 5 years ago? That's what you're probably asking yourself, right? I saw everybody asking that question mentally. 22% the first year. We went district-wide fees, and we jumped up to 52% the second year. The third year, we'll call that COVID. It's like saying Jesus in church is always right, So the fourth year, probably a little bit of the same, very stagnant. We got up to about 60% and went up and down by like 5% all year. And this year, we skyrocketed to 72 just about overnight, and we've maintained that level. But what does that mean in receipting world, right? Because to us, as governments, that's one thing, but to the receipting company, that's another. Okay, so just to isolate this little point real quick. And Scott, what's my time? Am I good? Oh, halfway? Okay. All right, so what that looks like for the receipting companies, remember that they're selling the product. It's your job to sell the viewership of the product, because if they see it, they pay for it, right? So if you put it online, so when I say 72%, Knox County Schools adoption rate, 72%, what I'm saying is that 72% of our families, 60,000 students, so 72% of that, are wanting to pay online. But we still have probably a deviation, some kind of maybe 15% of schools that don't put anything online, okay? They'll talk about demographic. They'll say that kids don't pay anything in this area. It's to this, it's to that. No, ignore it because of one point. What is that? If they don't pay, they don't pay. There's no law saying they have to. It's public school. So why focus on them? This is just an exception to a rule. We're giving an offering. Pay online. So it should be everywhere. It shouldn't be an opinion. Okay? So every school should have it. When we did that, that's when we would jump to 50%. I eliminated principal opinion. Okay? I just did it. And it worked. Proof was in the pudding. As bad and as harsh and direct as it sounds, it worked. Okay? So keep that in mind. So when you think of that in this self-funding world, remember $4 million is my dollar amount. That's what I'm trying to reach. Okay? Right here, I guarantee you could probably get, and this is just Garrett talking, so receiving companies, listen. It should be incentivized for the more and more money that I throw through this company, the more and more money I should see. And I say I as in Knox County Schools, just to clarify. Okay? So the next one, givebacks, royalties, commissions. That's companies like Member Hub. They have another subsidiary called Givebacks. Kroger has like a Food City Bucks, or maybe that's Food City. Kroger Rewards or something like that. BSN, I think, has some type of incentive. If you use them, they'll give you whatever money to spend at BSN. Those types of programs, stop ignoring them. Stop being afraid of them. Bring them in and attach yourself to them through contracts. That way you're not doing it as a kickback and you're going to get on the front page of the news. Okay? So those are not bad. That right there, I would guarantee you, we work with I wasn't going to mention it, but we currently use a system that we're very new to, and that system, the sky's the limit, so I'm going to blow your mind with numbers, but I can guarantee you that if just about 25% of our district used it, we would probably have around $1 million in free revenue, just free. Money that wasn't there yesterday, that's there today. And again, don't quote me on numbers. I'm just spitballing. Okay, that's the whole point of this conversation, is to get your mind thinking outside the box that you've been forced to be in. Okay, so remember, now we're down to about 3 million. We'll go ahead and say that the online receipting is going to give us about 250. I'll make math easy because I'm not Rain Man. So let's stay with 500,000. Okay, so now we're down to what, 2.5 is all we need to clear this budget, and now no one can have an opinion on us. All right? Purchasing cards. That is the biggest incentive a school system can use. They are not scary. They're only scary because they're new. You're not used to it. As an auditor, if I saw someone using a credit card, I immediately got nervous because I didn't know about it. Think about what I would have done if I knew about it. I would have put a sampling in place, and I would have extrapolated that sample. I would have scoped that sample. However, the methodology I was following dictated I would have to follow it, right? And so our CPA firm that does our audit, I actually used to work for, and they literally test a month, the whole month of transactions on the credit card. Or they'll pick, next year they'll change it up because they don't want me to know. And they'll do 4 months. I don't know. Again, that's not our job. But your job, as speaking on a CFO standpoint, or maybe the assistant superintendents or the superintendents, is why would we do that? That's ultra risky. They can use that at liquor stores, drug stores. They can go to carnivals on the weekends. You see it all. As I was sitting back there during the presentation for the comptroller's office, I got 3 phone calls regarding credit cards. 2 of them were fraudulent transactions made that we would never have known about if we used checks. And the reason I know that is because we had check fraud 4 months ago, and it took us almost 70 days to find that out. I found out about it in an hour. So land your plane, Garrett. Okay? How much money are you talking? Well, we get through our consortium, is what it's called. It's a lot of big words. Pretty neat, though, to learn. So consortium just means that we're in cahoots with a lot of other school districts through our contract, and it's a cooperative with, I will mention this one because we have a contract and it's big, so the more people that attach themselves to it, the more we all get back, and it's with Truist. So feel free, look it up on our procurement code, our procurement website. You can see that contract. But that's about $500,000 by just replacing a check with a card. That's it. That's all I did. The first year we used it on just one school, that in total receipts for that school that we just tried this was 5 years ago that we tried it. We've slowly rolled this out, as you can imagine. Why? Okay. The first school, one school, $3,500 in a rebate. Second year, just Amazon purchases. I logged into Amazon, our school website, just attached every Amazon purchase to a non-physical plastic card. Did everybody hear that? That means it's not a piece of plastic. The only person that knows the number is me. The only person that knows how to control that is the auditors, right? So I have oversight. The schools have oversight. Perfect segregation of duties. Internal controls are spot on, okay? $22,500. All we did was replace one vendor. This year, we expanded to high schools and middle schools with hopefully an expectation to get elementaries on board by, we'll call it January 1 to be overzealous, but realistically maybe July 1 just to work out all the kinks and make sure it works. But already we're guaranteed about $200,000. And that's like half a year with half the schools. Okay, so now let's just cover that. That's down to what, $2 million that we owe now in revenue? So bookkeepers are retail sales. That's like name, image, likeness that colleges are doing. But in the manual, it's referred to as SSOs. They'll talk about your name, mascot, logo. I've been using the NIL language because it's just easier because colleges use it now. But if you transition that into a retail company rather than just doing it on your own, which we have a contract for as well, we're now in Walmart, CVS's, Walgreens, and it's a process. Believe me, it's not fun. I've had a lot of help from our public affairs area recently to help me get these trademarks and logos down. But now we're in all those stores, and it's going to be somewhere around $100,000 in additional revenue. Okay? So I'm just going to ignore that one, though, because really that one doesn't help me my Rain Man math. So we're just still at $2 million. And then bookkeeper salaries will be how you change the additional $2 million. Okay? So how do you do that? Well, you don't fire anybody. Everybody I know immediately thought you're going to fire people. No. We still need the people, right? That goes back to that BEP formula, the TISA formula. I don't want to get into that opinion world, right, where this school says they need 3 secretaries, this one says they need 4. We all know they need 7, but they only asked for 4, so we're giving them 4, right? That's too opinionated. What do we need? Control. So fraud doesn't happen. That's the only reason the manual exists, right? Functionally, that's the only manual. People still put a control in place so you can catch it, okay? 23 is what I know for a fact we need. That's it. Out of 93, all I need is 23. So that reduced our salaries by almost $2 million. How did I do that? Through the other money. It's this giant like circle, okay? Plus, this is what's going to happen. Those bookkeepers can now come to this conference. I mean, you don't have to raise your hand, but just rhetorically speaking, how many bookkeepers are at these conferences that can afford to come out of a school and come to this training? I don't know, man. None in my in Knox County schools. None. This is the first time my 4 staff have been. This is the first time I've been in 8 years. Right? I used to come every year. Morristown one or here, rather, right? So you can't afford to. Now you can. 23 people, you could stagger it, right? Put up, so what is that? What am I getting to? That's CPE, continuing professional education. So now you've not only structured your bookkeepers to where they want to grow, but they can. I feel like I'm preaching. All right, so then, as you can see right now, 15, we're at 17% turnover. It doesn't sound like much, but please remember it's not even Christmas. Okay? After Christmas, I know we'll lose probably a few. Like we know of how many, just nod of head, 2, 3, 17, yeah, 5. We know of 5. So now that number is 23 in 30 days. All right? So then remember that this internal, it increases, all this conversation goes back to the very first point. It increases internal control structure, increases efficiency and effectiveness. And I mean, look at the success, right? Especially the team on the right. Geez, unreal. The redundancies alone. I can tell you right now, there are some days that I'll preach to you. There are some days that me at my level have the same conversation a dozen times in an hour. So then think about it like this. In the public world, like any company around, they would take that and apply what you're actually making that company. Think of it like that, right? We don't have to be, it doesn't matter what your education level is. Just imagine how much you make times the amount of hours you spend on stuff like that and see where you're at. I did it because I'm a nerd. And do you know that I spent almost 1,000 hours just answering questions about stuff that didn't need to be asked? Meaning I could have just replaced it with something that would have self-answered itself. Okay? That alone, you just literally saved 4 jobs in a school system. Okay? The disparities, it irritates me more. That's why it's second. I honestly probably should have put it first because I don't know what education meant. I guess CPE. That's what I meant by that. Disparities, though, is what bothers me the most because I'm from Atlanta originally, Peachtree City, Fulton County area, and for one school to have something and another have to pay for it is wrong, right? And so you extrapolate that into just the bookkeeping realm. Like, how do I give this school credit cards and not that school? Or how do I give them a receipting software platform that makes them money? Or you see where I'm going, right? Like, everybody, I hope you see where I'm going. Like, you can't, that doesn't work, and especially nowadays. Employee retention is up, salaries increased. The outlook for my department would be basically a staff level accountant that he or she works their way up to something else and then something else, and at each step they learn more. Okay, so to me right now, bookkeepers don't have that, secretaries don't have that. All right, so my final slide, and then I'm going to take questions. And I killed that, by the way, didn't I? If you don't know me, this presentation usually would have taken 4 hours. Like, you got off lucky. Ask the 4 ladies in the back. You're welcome. Okay? That was like 33 minutes. Not even that. That was like 27. All right, so the last one, you got to implement it and stop raising your hands about problems that you make because you didn't beat somebody. You're still going to make the playoffs. Okay? And just, this is the one thing that I strive in my household. I didn't mention that I'm a baseball player at heart, so I failed at that, so I became an accountant. But just remember that success is never deserved. So like this job, like the role you play, it stinks at times. Like, I can tell you because I've living it, it stinks. But remember that if you want big rewards, you got to take big risks. And it's worked. Like, I swear, I hope Knox County feels the same way, but we've taken huge risk in the financial what I would consider risk. Like my CPA firm, God love the partner on the job, I used to work for him. He literally would say, hopefully he's listening to this. He'll get a crack out of it. Garrett, you shouldn't do credit cards. That's really risky. Like this is the ultra risky. Remember what the comptroller's office said? This is the riskiest job you'll have. It is. They're 100% right. When I was the auditor on this job, we would spend probably a cumulative total of like 2,200 hours on the job for Knox County Schools. And we made like nothing off of it, okay? But to put credit cards now, I've just basically made it easier for the auditors to do their job too. Jeez, I've been talking too long. So I'm going to stop there. I hope this made sense. Or dollars. All right? You like that? Yeah, a couple of you got it. A couple of you just now got it. Work on that. Okay? All right, well, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to repeat the question if you guys ask one. If you have any questions, you can do heads up, 7 up, or you can raise your hand. That's the old way of doing it. Any really? I was worried that it would be no questions, and there's no questions. What about online? Do we have any online questions? Dang it. All right, with no questions, I'm going to let go. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so the question was, tell me about credit cards, Truist. We won't talk about the vendor because I don't want to give vendors shout-outs here other than the simple fact that that's who we use because we have a contract with them. You guys can do your due diligence on your own to sell them. But the Enterprise Spend Platform, ESP, is the platform we use. I would say it's pretty straightforward. It has its like any new software, it has its nuances. Why is it there? It should have been here. You're going to run into that. It's a no-brainer. It's going to happen. You just got to get past it. I am the only one that can basically generate cards. So for 93 schools, I'm the only one. None of the people in my department can do that. The control there is that it's logged. So the auditors just log into the system and can see and pull every card that I issued, and they can do a test on that. So hoorah to that. From that standpoint, it can allow you to auto receipt. This feature is amazing, and I'm glad you asked, Scott. So you actually, imagine this. All of you are swiping a card right now, simultaneously. Every one of you just did, okay? Obviously, the bookkeeper knows that you used the card because you checked it out. It's in the manual. You're welcome, okay? It tells you to do that. Check it out, and then they check it in when they bring it back. You swipe the card at Walmart. Actually, we'll use a better vendor. They give me heartburn. School supply, okay? Big vendor here in Knoxville. All right, school supply, or school store. Is that what it's called? School supply. One of the two. You go there, you swipe the card. Immediately, the bookkeeper can log in and see that transaction as an authorized transaction. Also, guess what happens? The user just screenshotted the receipt and uploaded it to an email address that auto tags it to that expense, meaning you do not have to put the supporting documentation to the expense. It does it by itself. Now, if it's ABC company for lunch and their receipt is the ones from Walmart, yeah, it's not going to auto post it because it doesn't have their name on it. It uses what's called OCR. It stands for something cool. But it basically recognizes the text and can attach it to that expense in the software, okay? But what if that doesn't happen? Well, then the bookkeeper is given every receipt is in her library for her to attach. And then when she does, it disappears. That's how easy it is. And then, get this, in the software, you can attach a PO number. That way, when you're trying to reconcile it, because all your checks went away, but all your credit card expenses are now there, right? So we just did this with their job description, right? Is everybody following me? Smelling what I'm stepping in? Okay. So what we did was we just replaced it here. So now he, we only have women right now, can actually reconcile the bank statement like that. Okay? On top of all that, The P card, the P card statement. Sorry, I said bank statement. Thank you, ladies. P card statement. So the purchasing card statement. On top of all that, it has a software that we're not currently using, but we are going to use it next year, is where it will actually put an account number attached to it, and it will spit out a GL listing of how to post that transaction. So the accounting software that you use will be less needed in that regard because now the system's doing it that too. Do you see how we've kind of just replaced that as well now? Yeah, it should blow everybody's mind. It blows mine every day. Okay? So that's kind of where I'll stop with ESP because the Truist, their platform is very much so sophisticated and does way more than what we currently use. But it's because we have 4 of us. We have 5 literally, but 4 practically that use the system in that way. The bookkeepers do not use the full totality of that system. Okay? Got to be more questions than this. I mean, really? Are you hungry? Because I'm hungry too, but I'm still talking. All right, no questions? Really? Yeah, I wanted to answer some of the questions the comptroller's office was getting asked. I didn't, though. But I will. All right, so I guess that's my whole presentation was self-funding. So the whole goal, right, to wrap this thing up is I want the budget to go. I want people in the public to look at our schools, financially speaking, and know that it doesn't cost them a dime to run their financial controls around the school and or the school district. I mean, I'd love to say the school district's finance department will be replaced by this methodology, but unless we're going to get a vendor that's going to cut us a lot bigger check, that's probably not going to happen. Okay? So the whole point to remember is, yes, I understand that some of you are looking at me saying that, well, Garrett, all you did was replace $4 million. You didn't actually help the budget out. But remember, I did. Right now, Knox County Schools, and I'll get to you one second, Knox County Schools, I failed to mention this stat, and it's an amazing stat. Check this out. Last year alone, actually we'll use 2 years ago data because it was the COVID year. We wrote 2,000 checks at a high school. Every high school, we have 16. 2,000, or about 1,000 checks at every middle school, we have 16. And about 500 checks at every elementary school, and we have 53. That, don't double check my math and call me out, but I believe that's 75,000 checks. Under this method, you don't write any. None. Because it all auto drafts. That's another thing we set up. All of these bills auto draft. So Truist gets paid automatically on the 25th of the month. All the bookkeeper has to do is go in there and book the journal entry. That's it. I know. I just blew your mind again. It happens. It happens. Go ahead.
I hate to ask this, but where does school fundraising fit in Knox County?
So school fundraising was the question. How does that fit in Knox County schools? It's not pretty, to be honest, if I'm being very honest. It's got its kinks that need to be worked out. But overall, it works pretty practical. The way we do most of the fundraising is the principal will approve as the manual says, and then we get involved, me specifically, when it's like the marketing aspect. And I literally follow that verbatim. If you all haven't realized that part of the TSOPM, the manual, sorry, you know what I'm saying. It's for here. You're using it here, okay? Does everybody understand that? So the concept that you need to use that, hey, does every fundraiser approved? Is it approved by the principal? That's what you should be asking yourself. Like, does the principal know about it? When you go to do that car wash at Burger King and everybody's calling me because the coach just pocketed $1,500, I want to know about it at least, right? Don't let it just show up on the news and me not know about it. That's the point, right? That's the practical use of that, which is what we do, okay? Because that's a slippery slope. How you replace it is what they said, the comptroller's office said. Find a vendor that will do the fundraisers, okay? The company we use does it, but it doesn't do that aspect very well, but it does have a method to do it. So it's totally fine and worth it. It really is, especially some of the donation modules that are built in. But fundraising just can be a very weeds-oriented area. Great question, though. All right, any other questions? Yes, ma'am?
Okay, so when you implemented the P cards,
Yeah.
did you see an increase in improper usage of those?
Love it. Somebody asked the greatest question ever. I wish I had a Chick-fil-A coupon. I'd throw it at you. All right, so the question was, so when you implemented P cards, purchasing cards, what we're going to call them, because P cards are negative Nancy language in Knox County schools. So purchasing cards, when they were used, when we implemented, did we see a direct correlation to audit findings going up or down? I think one of my slides actually showed the number of findings. Did I leave that on there? I started to take it off, but I thought being transparent was better. So yes, there was a direct correlation, and it was amazing. So the first year we used them, there were 0 audit findings on the cards. Okay, first year. Second year, 0, but we had 4 instances of fraud, and they were all external, meaning someone stole the card when they used it online, which you and I have that same problem. So that is not fraud in my eyes, nor should it be in yours. Okay? So I would still say it was flawless. This year would probably be the real key thing to look at. I do expect sales tax to be an issue, because even though I clearly put the EIN number on the stinking card, vendors still want the tax exempt certificate that if you give them, they will pocket and then go buy a new TV with, tax-free. So I don't really love that aspect, so I'm still trying to work that through in a way. But I can tell you right now, as an auditor, I guarantee I would put my job on the line, that findings will be reduced. And I think we had 700 and something is what I mentioned on there. I don't remember, the number is a lot. I would expect that number to be half in 2 years, because you'd have to, cycle it through for a year to get used to it. So, and you may think 700 is a lot. I can tell you the only reason I felt comfortable putting that on there and not throwing us under the bus is because you all have that many too. Okay? It's a very practical number and easy to get there. Like high schools, most of the time will have 40 plus findings. Okay? Most of them. And if you don't, then please email me and tell me that in writing, because I'd love to know how you did that. So great question. Any other questions? Comments, concerns? Nothing? Like, this is really, okay, all right, well, I'm going to be quiet. I guess we can let you go to lunch now. All right, thank you guys for letting me speak. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.